last thing that we really need to do to button all this up is we need to get all of the hardware put in this door. I'm gonna go ahead and start taking off the hardware off the old door, get it thrown on the new door. I really don't have a clue which order this needs to go in, so I'm gonna wing it and see what happens. Door has been stripped. It's quite a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. Around the bottom here is a piece of molding that goes, these little clips hold the molding in. And these little clips, I'm going to say are one-time use only clips. They were an absolute nightmare to try and get out. Trying to pull one out right now. So it might be hard to see. Focus, there you go. So it's got a little T that holds onto the gasket. And then on this end, there's a little barb that goes onto either side. And I tried using my clip tool. This little guy right here works beautiful for the majority of clips, but those things are so small that these teeth just couldn't touch both sides. And both sides actually weren't even sticking out. So if you imagine this is in the hole, and if you look, there's a gap between the clip and the top. It's not much of a gap, but there's enough of a gap there. There you go. There's enough of a gap there that when you try and pull this thing out to get the tools behind it, you can't actually get to the little teeth. See, I can't even get this one to come out of me. You can't get to the teeth to push the two sides to get the whole thing to come out. So you end up just breaking them. There's still a few that are left in here. They were slightly stubborn and just didn't want to come out. But I have a few spares in one of my drawers from taking apart a door for a 240. Thankfully, Nissan, they're all the same. So I'm able to repurpose some of the 240 ones for this. But this is all of the parts that I took off. This is everything that makes one door panel. Before we put this window regulator back into the door, Todd was telling me that this window recently stopped working. Doesn't go up, doesn't go down, doesn't do nothing. But I'll end up plugging this into the harness outside of the vehicle. I'll plug this into the harness and turn it on and see if we get any buzzing noises, or I don't know, maybe it'll just magically work. All in all, the only things that really were a problem was like this gasket right here goes around the door. Oh, there's those clips I was talking about. So I was able to get a lot of them out. And then I was able to repurpose some from a 240. Down here, these yellow ones came off of my 240. But this piece down here, there's a piece of plastic that goes in here and holds this in place, and it did not want to come out. And it has molded into it some pretty gnarly little teeth that hold this on. And I could not get to, I couldn't pull this out enough to get to that little itty bitty lip right there. There you go, that little itty bitty lip to be able to press both of these. So try as I might, I ended up breaking this one and broke half of this one. So I may have to get a new one of these. This other little guy also was another piece of the rubber gasket that went all the way around it. It had the exact same problem, and I did what I could to be super careful and not break it, knowing exactly how that clip worked. And this one didn't even stand a chance. It just sheared right off. So outside of some broken plastics right here, I did find, here it is. So this is the rail for the window, and obviously it's supposed to be slightly curved because the windows move kind of in an arc inside the door. But you can see, you know, nice straight parallel, even though it's at an arc, still parallel until you get up here, and we are all sorts of twisted, which makes sense considering where this was in the truck. But there you go, doors taken apart. So we'll go ahead and get this off the jack stands, or off the sawhorses. And then I will work on getting all of this transferred into this door right here. I did already get the mirror installed off camera, and then also got the little safety catch thing for the position catch for when you open the door. I already went ahead and got this installed. So I went ahead and installed the door harness, plugged it in, and put the rubber boots back into the door and into the door frame. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the window switch and the window motor regulator thing, and see if that moves before we press on any further. Helps if you plug in the battery. All right, let's give that a try again. All right, I got lights and I got a radio. It's just this little connector here, which looks to be this little guy. Window goes down? No. Window goes up? No. Try this little guy. Oh, much better. Proper connector helps. All right. Window goes, fingers clear. Nope. Window goes down. Nope. Window goes up. Nope. Okay. Let's make sure I actually power the windows. Driver window also doesn't go up. There we go. Alright, driver window works. I didn't have the key all the way on, I just had it in the accessory or whatever mode. All right, fingers clear, window down. Nope, up, still no. Okay, let's go bump the driver switch, see if that one works. Down, up, nope. So, let's turn it off and check for a fuse. I'm gonna go check for that fuse real quick and see if the door actually has power. If I can't find a fuse, I'll go ahead and grab electrical equipment and check to see if I even have power over here. So I actually have a 12 volt go no go test light thing. Works perfect in scenarios like this. However, it apparently is not with all the rest of my electrical stuff. So going back to the old school multimeter. See if you guys can see this. We can get this set up somewhere you can see it. So, let's see this little guy, 15 or 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, and 12. So all of those are good. So I'm going to move over to the window regulator and see if I even have 12 volts at the regulator. All right, so as we learned previously, the key has to be fully on for any of this to work. Okay, key's fully on. Turn the AC off. There's absolutely no reason to have the blower motor turned on for the AC right now. All right, so going to the window regulator, we have a blue and green wire. There we go. Oh. All right, so yeah, we have a blue and green wire, kind of thicker gauge. Come over here and we look, there are a blue and a green right next to each other. So I would expect one of these to be power and one of these to be ground. Although I guess for the window to go up and down, they're both technically power, and it'll just run power forward and reverse through the motor to make it go up or down. So these are both probably power then, and it grounds out through the chassis, through the casing. Which if that's the case, then this black wire right here is most likely the ground, because cars black with no stripes on it usually indicates ground. So let's check that theory. Let's see, where can I put this so y'all can see it? Not really sure. I don't suspect that's gonna last long. I think it's gonna fall. So when we stick probe into the black one, I don't know what all in here is supposed to have power and what isn't, so a yellow stripe, that usually means a power of some sort. Now, that's millivolts. All right, well, let's go with this green guy. So absolutely nothing and 12 volts. And go the other direction. Absolutely nothing, because again, it's grounded out through the casing and that was the reverse motion. So come in here, if we push down, nothing, and go up, 12 volts. All right, so our switch is perfectly fine. So next check, knowing that the switch is fine, is to look at this window regulator and see if there's anything blatantly obvious that's like broken. All right, so quick search on Rock Auto and phone call to Todd. The window regulator is like 40 bucks at most on there. So he's gonna go ahead and get one of those ordered and get it shipped over to him. I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with putting all this together. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. By no means am I an expert, and do I do this every day. I like to think I have half a brain and I'm semi-intelligent and can engineer or reverse engineer a solution enough that I can do this. So that being said, I'm going to put this back together in an order and a sequence that makes sense to me from when I disassembled it and had lessons learned from the order I took that apart in. Obviously that was damaged in some parts. I had no choice except to remove other parts before removing them because there was no more room between the two panels because it was all just squished together. So it's a little different here because I actually have the full cavity depth in the door to do things. But all that to say that I'm sure somebody's gonna watch this and point out that I did a sequence completely wrong. Heck, in this video, I may even screw up and you'll see me take something back out that I put in because obviously that was the wrong sequence, or now I did it the wrong way or routed it wrong. I don't know, that's the part of learning. So I'm gonna set you up on another time lapse and I'm gonna see if I can't get this door thrown together. I didn't even get started and I already have to take apart something I previously did. So one of the near last things I took off on the door was the mirror. And one of the first things I put on the door was the mirror. The mirror is definitely in the way. So I'm gonna go pull the mirror back off and then see if I can't put this door together. All right, so I didn't bring you up close to see the issue that I was running into on that time lapse there. But what it came down to, and my holdup over here in this corner, specifically with the door handle in this whole area, is that this little hole right here is a few millimeters too low. So no matter how hard I pushed this against the door, I couldn't get the handle on the inside, the hole, to line up with the hole right here for this. I was able to use the pick and I can kind of sort of get like 50% of this hole to show up, but that's nowhere near enough to get a bolt through. And then as soon as I pull the dental pick out and remove all that pressure, the hole's gone. So I took this off of the new handle, and luckily this was still on the vehicle from the old handle. The cover on the old handle is completely gone, but this was still there because it was mounted to the truck. So I put the old part on, and I noticed that, I don't know if you can see it, but that part number right there, was it ZDC2? Exact same part number on the old one. So same part, they look the exact same. but that hole was slightly different on the old one. And when I put the old one in, the hole immediately lined up. I didn't even have to really wiggle it or fight it or even use a dental pick. Like, it was how it was supposed to be. So just to know, sometimes new parts, same part number, are slightly different. All right, so the window motor is here. I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the box and see if I can't get this thrown in the door real quick. Got the new motor out. I verified that the connector up there does in fact plug into the connector right there. It is slightly different than the OEM. OEM had that connector on the housing and you just plug directly into it. So now we have a little bit of a dogtail to plug into, which is fine as long as the connector plugs into it. Looking at the 3 mounting holes and the 2 hangers, they look to be in about the same locations, or at least close enough. Same thing with the mounting points up here and down here. Those both seem to be the same. So all in all, I think it'll work. It's a little different than factory, obviously, because it's an OEM-like replacement. The first thing I need to take care of, though, is the window position. So on the old one, the window's in the up position, and in the new one, the window's in the down position. And I can probably install all of this into the door and then gently lower the window down to line up with the spots, I think. The other option, and the option I think I'm going to attempt to go with, is I'm going to plug the motor in, plug in the window switch, obviously go plug the battery back in because it's still unplugged, and then just hit the window button and send the window send the window assembly right there all the way to the top. And then it should line up with where our window currently is, all the way in the up position. So I'm gonna throw you back on time lapse real quick and see if I can't get all of that taken care of and get this ran up to the top. Would you look at that? I was completely wrong. It was so much easier to bring it from the top down here. There are 2 beautiful holes right here to get these in, so I don't have to shove my arms up in there and blindly try and do this. It's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna get this last one thrown in here real quick and then make sure the window goes up and down with no problems. All right, all the way down. Whip. Ooh! It does not like that. Alright, well, guess that's what we get for aftermarket. We'll see how long it lasts, or if it annoys Todd. May have to swap that out again for a stronger one. Alright, quick glance at our pile over here. It's trash now. I don't need that. So glance at our pile. I have the plastic liner that needs to go back on the door to rain protect it. Just fine. It's like one of the last things that usually goes on. I have a speaker that needs to go back in, which is behind this. It's not like a Honda, so I got to put this on before I put that on. I've got this piece of trim that covers the mirror that looks to be independent of the door panel, something like that. This has to go in on the outside. It's usually almost one of the last things always to do because it's a pain in the butt to get them off without breaking them. So you want to leave it off as long as possible. This needs to go on the door. It's the door seal. That's the door seal. Door handle piece. Yeah, door handle trim. This goes on the door and it's for the door panel to attach to, but it goes on after the plastic. Let's move all this since we don't need none of this no more. Door handle plastics. Door handle's already installed. Plastics for the door. So yeah, we're at putting this thing on. So I'm gonna sit you back up on the tripod because I'm gonna need a couple hands to do that correctly. And we'll get all the rest of this thrown on and we should be done here in a couple minutes. All right, so almost had to undo some of this, or a lot of this. Luckily, I only have to undo a little bit of this. So something that I don't think the original door came with, but pretty much all the old timers I've ever talked to that have done body panel repairs in any of their own vehicles, every one of them has sworn by this and told me that I absolutely must do this if I want this door to survive. So I need to go pull that plastic liner back off and then read the instructions on how to use this. But they required me, or had heavily advised me, to use this product here called Cavity Wax from 3M. I guess basically it just goes into the bottom of the seals, or the sills. So when water hits your window and goes down, hopefully your seals and everything and your tracks down here work really well. But as vehicles age and they get older, there ends up being a gap in between these, and water will get down through the door, which really isn't that big of a deal. Where's that? Right here. I can get you in frame. Right here, there are weeping holes. So if any water does build up in here, it'll just weep out of this hole. And there's a few of them along the entire door panel. So there are still weeping holes in the new door. But what all the old timers, at least everybody I've talked to, has advised me to do this. You put the cavity wax in the bottom of the door so that where the panels meet up and create that little like V channel for the water to run through to the seals, just water sits in there. You can't get all the water out. So it eventually will rush through and just destroy the door from the inside out. So this puts a little bit of a barrier on the bottom right there. So when the water does get in, it can't rush through. It has to follow this bead of wax to the weeping holes. So I'm gonna go over the instructions on this real quick, get you back set up on the GoPro or the time lapse, and figure out how to put this in the door real quick, and then put the door back together. All right, so I tried pulling this plastic liner up and just letting it just naturally hang right here. That didn't work out so well because all the stuff's already attached and already fed in, and it's pretty much already in its final position. So what I'm gonna do is use a pretty awesome neodymium magnet here. This thing's absurd. I'm gonna use this real quick to just hold the plastic liner to the top. So if I was to just put this neodymium directly onto the body panel, good luck ever getting it back off again. This thing right here is no joke, absolutely absurd, stupid dangerous. So to keep myself safe and to make sure that I don't ruin what I'm about to work on, I always try and wrap it in some sort of a shop towel or microfiber, just something that's not gonna tear when I try and pull on it, but also is gonna give me just a little bit of padding so that it's not as magnetized to the panel. It'll make more sense here in a moment when I try and pull this off. There you go. Let's go kill that buzzing. Like I said, I've never used this before, but instructions are pretty simple. Shake can well, use the hose or the little attachment nozzle thing if we bought one, apply liberally. That's really it. So let's get some light in here and see what this does. Actually sprays pretty easily. So let's spray as far as we can. Give it a second. I'm gonna grab rags. I sprayed a little bit on the door. Curious little product here. All right, so you can see I obviously messed up when I sprayed some and got it all over this bar here. But if you look down in here, there's all that, that goo. And specifically, right here is a line. That line is where the water would sit, and the water would just stay there until it rushed through the door. So now by having this stuff there, obviously the water can't sit there because there's a bead of this cavity wax here. So I'm going to pull that speaker out, see if I can't get some better angles, and see if I can't get as much of this gap filled all the way through here as I can. All right, so it's sprayed in the door. Kind of an absolute mess. I probably should have picked up that extension tube spray nozzle thing that came with it. I'll just call this another lesson learned for this project. But you can see the bottom track. Obviously, I made a ridiculous mess in here. But that bottom cavity, that crease, is pretty much filled up from seam to seam and weep hole to weep hole. There's quite a few weep holes that I was actually trying to dry this stuff off as it was coming out of the weep hole. We'll get you up here to this side. Cables are in the way. Yeah, filled up there to the weep hole, you know, and then it runs back to the next weep hole. Lighting runs back to the next weep hole as well. But yeah, the straw, there's that little section right there that I didn't get real well. I tried, but yeah, having that straw, I'd have been able to get all the way over into there. Yeah, all in all, that worked really well. So I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to flash over, harden, get sticky, but whatever it does, I'm gonna give it a little bit and then wipe up some of the drips and drools and mess ups that I have in here. And so I forgot there for a moment that we have a pretty nasty crack right there. So I forgot that we had that. So I did bring some CA glue. I know CA is not the appropriate solution for this. I know they do make plastic welding kits where I could attempt, I could attempt from the back side to like use that little Z stitch thing and heat this up and fuse these two pieces of plastic back together using that. I may go that route if just super gluing it doesn't fix it. I know, again, super glue is not the most correct way to do this, but that's just what I'm going to use. So I'm going to go take care of that real quick and then we'll throw this door back in there. So other than the obvious crack that's in the plastic, you know, up close you can see the obvious crack in here. And then all the way down around this side. But once you get far enough away, you know, nice and smooth. Can't even tell that it was there. Obviously I'll go do some more cleaning on this, and then once we get the whole thing installed, I'll probably interior dress it and shine it up and see if we can't hide some of that a little bit more. Door is put back together and has already had interior dressing put on it, so it's nice and shiny again. You can barely even see that there was a huge crack over here. Obviously if we get closer, if we get the angles right, like it's pretty obvious that the crack's still there. There you go, you can see a little bit of it. But again, this is his daily work truck, so I mean, having a non-huge hole right here I think is enough for him. And then having it all super shiny again should be a nice little bonus. So I'm gonna go ahead and get cleaned up, throw all those back in. I'll probably interior dress those as well, depending on how dirty they are, just because I'm already here. There we go, and as simple as that. Can't even tell there was an accident and we did anything to any of this. Aside from washing the truck, obviously, the only thing left really to do before I can deliver this back to Todd is the truck did originally come with pinstriping running all down these panels that we painted and stopping back, well not stopping, but connecting over here and running all the way to the back. I did pick up some generic pinstriping that looked like it matched. It's hard to see, there you go. So it's like a fatter stripe on top and skinnier stripe on the bottom. Let's get you over here. So you can see it's black pinstriping, thicker on bottom, smaller on top. One thing I did notice, and I actually just did it here so I can go with the light. This isn't just like black pinstripe. Let's get the lighting right. There you go. So under the reflective conditions of the pinstripe, it's like a gold color. So, oop, I almost dropped it. So I don't know if the tint that I got, or the striping that I got, does that gold shift. So I may have to restripe the whole truck. It's definitely not a tasking for today. But I will go ahead and stripe the sections that are missing and we'll see what happens. All right, so it has been years since I've done pinstriping. There's a real high chance I'm going to screw this up, but I'm gonna record it anyway, and if it goes sideways, you'll never see this. Otherwise, let's see what pinstriping looks like. It would go that way, wouldn't it? So, the roll is such that the fatter stripe needs to be on the bottom, and to really get my angles right, I should stick it down in the section that already is true to the manufacturer striping. But in order to do that, I need to unwind out however much I need. So I'm gonna pull out more than I need, going to stick it to the headlight. Hopefully it'll stay there. Going to unroll. Maybe. There we go. So I'm gonna unroll roughly how much I need. Going to use my razor blade that's not over here. There's a knife. Going to peel off the back here. Try and get both stripes to come off the back. There we go. All right, and then peel off what I need. Line it up with the original stripe. And our stripe is slightly different than the original stripe, but I think it's close enough that you won't notice. All right, so I've got the back stuck to the bed on the original stripe. All the rest of it just is what it is. And if I compare this side to the driver's side, I am way low. So over here, stripe needs to be about in the middle of this little gap that's left on the door handle. So I'm going to squat so I can eyeball this, unstick it from the headlight, line it up about where it needs to go, pull it a little tight, and stick it back to the headlight again. All right, so now I'm going to eyeball the gap between the top curve of the handle and the bottom of the curve for where the door sill starts coming up. So I'm going to see how close I am to being where this needs to be over here. Yeah, that's about right. So with that being about right, I'm going to look at the front fender now. This gap up here, and compare it to the driver's side. Yeah, that actually looks really good. Oh, all that work. So I'm gonna pause you and I'm gonna go redo this off camera, and I'll bring you right back after I have it relined up again. Oh, that sucks. All right, so that's kind of sort of roughly where it needs to go. Now here's the part where I haven't done in years, so I'm sure somebody who's watching this is going to know a better way of doing this, and or be able to call out that I'm an idiot and don't know what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do now that I visually know roughly where this needs to be, I have some blue tape somewhere around, there it is. So I'm going to take my blue tape and I'm going to mark roughly where I wanted it to be up here in the front. Let's side some. So I want to end kind of, sort of, right there. All right, and that'll give me a straight line reference roughly of where I need to come back to. So now, still pinching it roughly where I was a second ago. I'm gonna make sure all of this is stuck really good. And the point of no return. Here, I'm pulling the protective backing off of this, and this is going to allow the pinstripe to stick to the vehicle now. Of course, I'm blocking the shot entirely. So, backing is completely removed. I want to stay as straight as possible. A little bit of tension. Good, good. Good. Oop. A little off. All right. So, sticking it back down to the headlight. I did not stick it. I laid it on the rest of the paint, but I didn't go back through yet and press it in there. So, still has some finite adjustment if needed, but eyeballing that, that's pretty good. So I'm going to commit to that being right there and very gently run my finger along it. With the clear backing on here, in some angles I can actually see that this does have some reflective property in it, but it looks a little more silver than the gold that the back has. All right, so a little bit closer shot of what we just did. So it's stuck kind of, sort of, almost where my tape line was, close enough. Now it's just pinstriping running down. You notice that this is something that's gonna have to be addressed here in a moment, but it's pressed all the way down to the two corners. Same thing all the way down. Right there, still gonna have to address that. And then we're down to the factory original. I'll just end up cutting and tearing all this stuff off. All right, so I do pardon for my face being in this, but reflective surfaces and we're doing things on them, so can't help it much. So on the other side for the new striping, we have these still connected. So to get it as close to the manufacturer design, or whoever striped this, could have been a dealership that striped this, who knows. To get as close to this as you can, let's see if you can see this. I don't know if it'll focus, but there are itty bitty little lines in both locations. Yeah, you'll just have to take my word for it. So typically what happens is the detail guy or detail kid or whoever stripes this kind of gets it kind of sort of to the edge and just takes a knife or a razor blade and just draws a score straight down. And you can actually see it a little more right there. So they just straight line down on both sides and then just peel the pinstripe off. It's really down to whoever does its discretion as to how much they leave. So like, I don't think any of this is in focus for you. There you go. This side right here, we've got about 2 and 2.5 millimeters on this side between the stripe and the jam. This one's at about 1 millimeter. That's at about 1 millimeter. Roll down to this one. Again, I don't think you can see any of this. I don't think this GoPro focuses on this. About 2 millimeters, 2 millimeters. Ooh, that one's like 3.5 millimeters. So either way, you get the idea. All right. So I've got you in here up close, all up in my way. Let's see if I can get this done without knocking around the camera too much. So using a brand new razor blade, you want to line up roughly that distance that we talked about a moment ago. Oop. Make sure it's fully stuck to the panel. And one thing that can help with that is if you split the difference of the two, just splice them in half. Because there will be some panel height differences between the two, and that height difference is going to pull different tensions on both sides, so whichever side's lower isn't going to be stuck to the panel as well, and it's going to have upward tension pulling on it. Either way, splice it so that tension's gone, line it up kind of sort of roughly where you want. Small little score in the pinstripe only. Hopefully. And then very gently, here we go. That little guy's off. See the bottom one's still on there. Just sticking it to the razor blade and pulling it with the razor blade. There you go. That one's cleanly cut. Do the same thing on the front side. Roughly where you want it. Pinstripe only. Very gently cut. Go to the bottom. Stick it to the razor blade. And a little tug. There you go. Both of those are done. So I'm gonna get the camera out of the way and I'm gonna go do the other two gaps and I'll bring you back. All right, all of them are cut. So the very last thing to do now, you can see, I hope you can see, yeah, you can see in there. There's some like white haze in between these. So the pinstripe actually comes with a protective cap on top of it, plastic cap on top of it. So all you have to do is very gently get underneath that plastic cap or that protective cap, pull it back without pulling the pinstriping off. See the pinstriping still there? And then gently, kind of at like a 180 degree, or I guess it would be 90 degrees to the striping. Pull the protective cap off, and then you're done. So that's all there is to that. I'm gonna go ahead and pull off the rest of the protective caps and get you a final look here in a second. I pulled that protective cap off, or protective liner off, and realized that I forgot to show you about this. This is where we just stuck it down to the headlight and didn't really care. So let me get you around to the other side so you can see what the other side looks like compared to this one that goes all the way down to the headlight. So you can see over here, kind of stops about where the tip of that orange is from this angle. From, you know, directly on it, it's completely different. But from that angle, it kind of stops about there. And it's really hard to measure how far away it stops because there's no hard line to measure from. Closest I can do is measure from the bottom of the fender up, which puts me at about 16 centimeters or 16 millimeters. So I'm gonna eyeball roughly that angle right there and then try and get that measurement distance wise right here. Ooh, it looks like this pinstripe left some residue behind. There you go. Let's get that blue tape out of your way too. Should be about roughly what the other side looks like, minus the glue residue. I'll get that off here in a second. There we go. Not that I think you can make out the pinstriping much in this video, but that is the truck. Fully done and ready to go back to my house so I can pressure wash it and clean it and get all the polishing compound off of it. But she is all done.